Imagine a mother giving birth to two different species. It upends our ideas about reproduction.
What if I told you an ant queen can clone a species totally different from her own and thrive?
Stay with us as we unpack this mind-bending discovery, bust myths about hybrid ants, and reveal what it means for how we define species and why it matters for life on Earth. In this episode, we explore how the Iberian harvester ant Messor Ibericus literally gives birth to two species of sons, her own and clones of Messor structor, upending our ideas about reproduction.
We know some of you have asked if these faces are AI. They are. And we're grateful you care about transparency, because this story demands we honor truth over spectacle. Iberian harvester ants are not the first insects to bend the rules. In a handful of species, queens will mate with males of a different species to create hybrid worker daughters. Biologists call it sperm parasitism. She uses her neighbor's sperm to father her workers, but the larvae still carry her own DNA and grow up as half-breeds. This trick only works when the other species is right next door, so colonies that rely on hybrid labor are stuck wherever their partners live. Even then, the queen's sons are always her own species. This context matters, because what you're about to hear goes a full step further. No wild males are necessary, and the mother's male offspring can belong to another species entirely. Scientists found something extraordinary when they examined Iberian harvester ant colonies in places far from any Messor structor males. Every worker they sampled carried M structor DNA from the father's side. Controlled experiments confirmed that isolated queens still produced first-generation hybrid workers and winged males of two species, even when there were no structor mates around. It turned out that queens store sperm from their nuptial flights and can manipulate it. When she needs a structor son, she lays an egg and silences her own nucleus, so only the stored structor genome drives development. The result is a clone of the original structor male, living alongside her own sons, a phenomenon the researchers dubbed xenoparous reproduction, or giving birth to a stranger. To grasp how radical this is, consider the four paths available to an Iberian harvester queen. She can lay an unfertilized egg to make a haploid son of her own species, a clone of herself. She can swap in Messor structor DNA to make a haploid son of another species, a pure structor male. She can mate with a structor male, often one she cloned, to produce diploid hybrid daughters who become sterile worker ants. Or she can mate with a male of her own species to produce diploid daughters that will become future queens. By juggling these options, she maintains a workforce of hybrids, continues her own lineage, and keeps a stock of the partner genome alive within her colony. This versatility ensures survival, even when she lives far from her partner species.
Myth: a colony is made up of individuals of one species working together. In the Iberian harvester ant, the entire colony is a two-species superorganism. All the workers in her nest are first-generation hybrids, carrying one genome from the queen and one from Messor structor. The winged males buzzing around can be hairy sons of the queen or smooth clones of the other species. They all share the same mother, but belong to lineages that diverged millions of years ago. Without M structor genes, the colony cannot survive. Without M. Ibericus queens, the structor lineage now lives only inside these hybrids. This blurs the boundary of individuality and species, and turns the colony into a unified system that mixes and matches. How could such a bizarre life cycle evolve? The researchers suspect it began as sexual parasitism. Long ago, M. Ibericus and M. structor lived side by side. Queens of Ibericus lost the ability to produce workers with their own kind, so they stole sperm from structor males to sire workers. Over many generations, they used those males so often that the relationship became fixed. Eventually, the queens evolved an even more radical trick. They learned to clone those structor males and carry their genetic material with them. When a queen founds a new colony, she brings both her own sperm and a stock of structure DNA. What started as a one-sided exploitation has become a permanent merger of lineages. This two-species superorganism forces a rethink of what it means to be a species. The classic definition says species are groups that only reproduce among themselves. Here, reproduction literally requires another species to complete the life cycle. The workforce is interspecific hybrids. The sons can be clones of another species, and the colony cannot survive without combining genomes. Some entomologists compare this to horizontal gene transfer, where genomes blend across species lines. Evolutionary biologists say nothing like it has been seen before. If any creatures were going to break the rules of species boundaries, many scientists would have voted for the ants. The discovery challenges our assumptions about individuality and cooperation in nature. You might be tempted to dismiss this as a freak show or unnatural aberration, but the data show it's a product of natural selection and not some lab creation. Ants have already demonstrated surprising reproductive flexibility. Some clone themselves, others use hybridization to bolster workers, but M. Ibericus pushes the spectrum to an extreme. It teaches us that biological rules are patterns rather than absolutes. Xenoparity, giving birth to strangers, is rare but real. Recognizing such exceptions helps scientists refine theories, and it encourages us to keep our minds open. As we continue, we'll debate what this means for conservation and ethics. So there's no evidence that humans manipulated this phenomenon. It's a natural adaptation shaped by millions of years of evolution.
Hearing this story, I can't help feeling a mix of wonder and unease. It's like discovering your family tree has a whole hidden branch grafted on. Are these two species still separate if their bodies and fates are intertwined? Does it matter? Nature seems comfortable bending the categories we humans love. I'd love to know what you think. Are they one superorganism or two species sharing a home? Tell us in the comments, because your perspective matters.
From a scientific perspective, I want to challenge the assumption that categories are just fuzzy labels. Species definitions exist to describe reproductive boundaries. When those boundaries blur, maybe our definitions should too. But we need evidence. Does the queen actually rely on structure DNA to survive, or is this a one-off? Our sources show multiple colonies independently evolve this pattern. If you've read related studies or seen similar phenomena, drop links and your location in the comments. Let's crowdsource the data together.
That's why I love having Axiom around. He keeps me honest. We can disagree on terminology, but agree that this ant's life cycle is mind-blowing. As we head into deeper exploration, we'll look at how such cooperation evolved and what it can teach us about conservation. Stick around. We've got breakthroughs to share, and of course, a hopeful action at the end. We'd also love to know what you'd call this phenomenon.
In genetic terms, this life cycle is wild but internally consistent. Ant males normally develop from unfertilized eggs, so their genome is a haploid copy of the queen's. By swapping in stored Messor structure sperm, the queen essentially uses a male nucleus to build another male, leaving her own nuclear DNA on the sidelines. The resulting structure clone carries her mitochondrial DNA, because mitochondria come from the egg, but its nucleus is pure structure. Hybrid workers form when their egg is fertilized by a structure clone. The two genomes combine, producing a diploid female who will work but not reproduce. Future queens arise when she mates with her own species. Each path is a clever, specific use of the queen's reproductive toolkit.
Imagine if your household relied on the genetic legacy of a neighbor who moved away millions of years ago. That's what this ant queen does every day. She's like a single mother, raising children who carry two distinct surnames. The clones of Messor structure she produces would never exist in the wild, yet she keeps that species alive inside her colony. Her hybrid daughters inherit half their genome from each lineage and willingly labor for a queen who isn't fully their own. It's an almost mythic story of adoption, integration, and survival. When I first read about it, I thought of Greek myths where gods birth creatures of different realms. Except this is all real. When you think about a colony, you might picture a single species cooperating like a tiny city. In this case, the city's bricks come from two distinct quarries. All the workers carrying food or tending eggs are hybrid daughters who can't have daughters themselves. The males flying above are either the queen's clones or her cloned neighbors. The queen herself is the only pure member of her species in the entire workforce. In a way, it resembles horizontal gene transfer in bacteria, where genes hop across lineages. But here, the transfer is choreographed, continuous, and essential. The survival of both species depends on maintaining this integrated superorganism, truly.
Evolution didn't design this arrangement overnight. Initially, M. Ibericus queens that couldn't produce robust workers may have exploited M. structor males as a temporary fix. Because the workers were hybrids, the queens still passed on half of their genome through daughters. Over thousands of generations, those queens that could store structor sperm and use it effectively survived better. Eventually, the ability to clone structor males eliminated the need to find them in the wild. M. structor's genome, meanwhile, found a stable home inside hybrid workers, even though pure structor colonies vanished. The relationship shifted from parasitism to a mutual dependence. M. Ibericus gets workers, M. structor's lineage continues. It's a reminder that evolutionary innovation often grows from desperate beginnings.
This breakthrough ripples beyond ant fandom. It challenges our definitions of reproduction, shows how flexible evolution can be, and invites us to imagine collaborations we've never considered. If an ant queen can carry and clone a species that diverged from hers millions of years ago, what other forms of cooperation might exist unseen? Could this inform how we manage conservation, or even synthetic biology? At the very least, it reminds us that life's narrative is not linear. In a moment, we'll talk about actionable takeaways and what each of us can do to protect the diversity that makes such marvels possible. It leaves us wondering what other ancient alliances lie hidden in the undergrowth and oceans.
Here's what this story teaches us. Nature doesn't read our textbooks. Species boundaries are porous, reproductive strategies are diverse, and survival often depends on cooperation. For conservationists, that means preserving not just individual species, but the relationships between them. In our daily lives, we can support this by protecting habitat corridors, reducing pesticides, and embracing complexity in ecology. When you encounter an impossible animal story, let it inspire you to learn more, rather than dismiss it. Wonder is a powerful ally in conservation. Supporting protected areas that include entire ecosystems rather than isolated reserves is one way to safeguard these intricate relationships. We can also engage in citizen science projects that monitor pollinators and soil health, which are critical for insects like ants.
I want to thank each of you for showing up with your questions and passion. Your comments about our AI avatars, your field notes on Falanuk and civets, and your curiosity about creatures like Messor Ibericus keep this channel vibrant. If you value stories like this, please tap like, share the episode with a friend, and join the comments. Tell us which animal reproduction story you want us to tackle next. Your voice drives the journey. Your enthusiasm fuels this mission, and each share helps us reach classrooms and communities that might never hear these stories.
We also hear your feedback. Some of you prefer fewer synthetic visuals or have asked about our AI pipeline. We're committed to transparency. Our digital hosts exist to share science with minimal environmental impact. We always link to primary sources in the notes panel, and we'll release a voice-only version for those who want to focus on audio. If you question the ethics of AI narrators, know that we engage with that dialogue and are learning. Meanwhile, the animals remain the stars of the show. Thanks to your constructive pushback, we've adjusted our visuals and will continue refining how we present research ethically and accessibly. We appreciate your patience as we experiment.
Before we wrap this chapter, remember that small actions can build habitats as complex as an ant colony. Plant native flowers, support your local wildlife rescue, and share scientific curiosity with children. Our next segment will celebrate your contributions and highlight the creative ways our community is making a difference. Stick around. You deserve the spotlight too. Maybe volunteer at a nature center, participate in a BioBlitz, or write to your representatives about funding for biodiversity studies. Together, these small efforts compound. We'll also highlight a grassroots conservation project in the Community Roundup to inspire you. Your curiosity fuels our mission to explore deeper truths. I want to shine a light on some of your voices. @Musketeer Chris recently shared an inspiring story about Falanu conservation and even pitched a scent dog relocation idea for civets. Thank you for that passion. Others, like @FractAlchemist, have asked whether our talking heads are AI and how the sources panel works. Questions like these make us better. Keep sharing your rescue stories, questions, and creative solutions. We read them all and carry them forward. And a special thanks to @Jorge Crusada for your honest feedback on our Peru upload. Your push for more grounded visuals keeps us balanced and open to improvement. Your voices make this community feel like a true pack.
We are also collecting field data from you. If you've ever observed unusual reproductive behaviors in insects or other animals, log the date and place in the comments. Did you witness hybridization in your garden? Tag us. We're building a map of unusual mating strategies around the world. Your observations could help scientists spot patterns. As always, link your sources so we can verify and share them with the pack. There's nothing more exciting than community-powered science. We'll compile the sightings into a publicly available map and pass interesting leads to researchers. Remember that accurate timestamps and descriptions help ensure the data is useful for science.
In next week's adventure, we're diving into the ocean to meet a fish that changes sex multiple times in its life, another rule breaker of the animal kingdom. If you're curious about how and why that happens, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss it. Until then, drop a howl in the comments if you enjoyed today's story. We can't wait to hear your theories on what makes a species. These reef dwellers flip their reproductive roles in response to social cues and environmental pressures, and the way they do it reveals surprising mechanisms of hormone regulation and gene expression. Join us to explore this watery wonder. Thank you for exploring the world of Messor Ibericus with us. We learned that nature can be stranger than fiction, that cooperation across species can build superorganisms, and that curiosity leads to discovery. Your time and attention are precious, and we appreciate you spending them here. If you're viewing on a mobile device, swipe up to check the sources panel for further reading. Our research citations and notes are there for you to pause and explore. If you think this story is just about ants, think again. It's a lens into the creativity of life itself, and a reminder that our planet's smallest engineers shape the biosphere in outsized ways. And before you go, please remember to tap like if you found value, share this with a friend who loves science, and comment with your thoughts on interspecies cooperation. Your engagement helps more people discover these stories. It also tells us which topics resonate, so we can bring you deeper dives in the future. We love reading your stories of local wildlife rescues, your debates over definitions, and your suggestions for new topics. Every comment helps our algorithms understand that this content is worth sharing. So don't be shy, speak up, and you might hear your username in a future episode. Let's keep the conversation going beyond this video. We're handing you over to the end screen now. Click on the video on the right to watch our deep dive into Madagascar's ghostly Falanuk, or choose the playlist on the left to explore more mind-bending animal strategies. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Until our next adventure, stay curious and keep protecting the pack. Those suggestions help the algorithm know what to